Forest has already knocked off 2 ranked teams this season. The Deacs a perfect 10-0 at home this year, and it's number 10 Virginia coming to Winston-Salem this afternoon. Both the Cavaliers and Demon Deacons entering today in a tie for second in the ACC. Miami on the verge of going down to Duke, so that 4-way tie about to become a 3-way tie. And with that, we say good afternoon from the Joel and Anish Shroff alongside Chris Spatola. What makes this matchup so fun? We have one of the best offensive guards in the country who will have his hands full tonight.
This guard matchup's worth the price of admission. Tyree Appleby's been one of the best players in this league to this point. He's always on the attack. He's constantly on the go, scoring the ball real well. He's a willing passer. Any game plan, Anish, against Wake starts with stopping that guy.
And Virginia has not one, but 2 answers.
They do. Kihei Clark, went after Sean Padula the other night, I thought, in that game against Virginia Tech. He'll start on Appleby, I would think. But if you're Tony Bennett, you could put Reese Beekman on him, give a little bit more length. It'll be interesting, that back and forth.
Appleby this season, second in the ACC in scoring, first in assists. No player has ever led the league in both of those categories. Alondas Williams, though, almost did it last year for Wake when he won ACC Player of the Year. Officials today: Bill Covington, Clarence Armstrong, and Jeffrey Anderson. We are set for the 141st meeting all-time between Wake and Virginia, and the Demon Deacons control the opening tip.
And it is Clark on Appleby. The spacing for Wake Forest is outstanding. They play 4 around Matthew Marsh in the middle.
Appleby pulls up over Clark, left it short. And it's Virginia coming out with the small lineup for a 3rd straight game. It's an experienced group, 500-plus career combined starts. Kihei Clark has played in more games and played more minutes than any other Cavalier in program history. Franklin out to Beekman, the corner 3, not there. Vanderplas with the rebound. And now Franklin open for 3. The rebound comes to the big Brit, Matthew Marsh. Starting lineups for Wake: Cameron Hildreth controlling the ball. He's playing the best ball of his career, and as we say that, he turns it over. Andrew Carr, number 11 in white, coming off back-to-back double-doubles.
Turnovers a problem for Wake earlier in the season. They've been much better in conference play, Anish, but you cannot turn it over against a Virginia team that is one of the best at taking care of it.
Wake last time out in a win against Clemson, a Tigers team that was previously unbeaten in league play. Wake only turned it over 6 times in that game. Virginia last time out only turned it over 5 times in a win against Virginia Tech. Appleby block. Stays with it, and it's our first basket.
He's just always on the attack. He's just so tough. And he's got so much freedom, which I think frees his mind.
Beekman thought about the 3, drives to the rim, lost it. It'll stay with Virginia. Beekman a much better 3-point shooter this year than his last 2 years. We know his calling card is defense. If he can become a 3-and-D guy, boy, he could play for a long time.
Well, they're a better shooting team overall, Anish, and with this lineup they have been starting of late. They've been much better from the perimeter.
Franklin misfires. Virginia has missed its first 5.
And you got to like the looks. This has kind of been the yin and the yang with Virginia. They have shot it better of late. A big part of that is Armaan Franklin and Ben Vanderplas playing much better than they have all season.
Clark again matched up against Tyree Appleby. Second leading scorer in the ACC. Appleby nearly traveled, gets it inside to Marsh, and a foul is called. Marsh doesn't always miss. He's only missed 5 times this season.
Yeah, and this is the play, and this is why, to your point, Anish. I mean, he is constantly getting this shot. It's his high screen roll in the middle third of the floor, very difficult to defend, and then you've got the massive 7'1", 250 frame of Matthew Marsh rolling to that rim, and he gets a ton of dunks. I mean, that's how you shoot that percentage.
89%, 42 out of 47 from the field. 7'1" out of Cornwall, England. He and Hildreth, both Brits, and they have been dubbed bangers and mash by their head coach, Steve Forbes. Hildreth, bangers. Marsh, obviously mash. Franklin. There's Vander Plas. Vander Plas using the shot fake. And Virginia still without a point, still without a field goal. Hildreth has averaged almost 20 a game over his last 4. Monsanto, a terrific shooter, launches and hits.
He is a real wild card, a real X factor for them. That's what he does. He is a three-point sniper. 76% of his shots on the year are threes, and he's got much better off of the dribble.
Clark against Appleby, and Wake still keeping Virginia off the board. Hildreth likes to post up, working on Beekman, an excellent defender, and Beekman wins that battle.
It's a good defensive stand because that's where Cam Hildreth is at his best. He's a strong driver. Nice job staying in front of the ball by Beekman.
Skip pass, Beekman, catch and release, and no good. Vander Plas, another offensive rebound, fighting through a double team, and he gets Virginia on the board. First 2 for the Ohio transfer.
He has been a massive difference maker for them in their last 3 games. You know, he's a shooter and has that reputation, but he's got a blue-collar vibe to him. That basket right there, a perfect example.
Last 3 games, he's averaging more than 14 per. He started the last 2. Over and back. Hildreth trying to plead his case that Virginia touched the ball. We will step aside when we come back. Chris Spatola will tell you why the calculus is different for UVA this season. Anish Shroff, Chris Spatola. Tony Bennett is known for not good, but great defenses. He has adjusted that, and the balance is shifting a little more to the offensive side right now.
I think Tony Bennett does get talked enough as an offensive mind, you know, because the pack line takes up so much oxygen. I mean, what they're doing really with that starting group this year, but they've moved a little bit away from the mover blocker, more to this 3-game concept. A lot more movement, Anish, more screening, more room to break off for drives.
And interestingly enough, they have a better offensive efficiency this season than defensive efficiency. And to clarify, they've always been a very efficient offense as Franklin picks up the foul. We welcome those of you who are watching UCF and USF. Anish Shroff, Chris Spatola, Wake Forest, and number 10 Virginia at a rowdy and raucous Lawrence Joel Coliseum. The Demon Deacons 10-0 at home. They've beaten 2 ranked teams on this floor, including a win Tuesday against Clemson. Virginia rides in on a 4-game win streak. Andrew Carr nearly traveled, and it looks like it'll stay with Wake Forest. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Neither team off to a great start. Wake a couple of turnovers early. Virginia 1 of 10, 0 for 5 from 3. Tyree Appleby inbounding. Hildreth trying to follow his shot, and it comes to Kihei Clark.
You know, it's been a cold start, like you said, Anish, for both teams. I actually think they both have gotten good looks. The shots that Virginia's gotten on this end, their movement has been good. They've gotten open shots that they have not hit. And they're an open layup there, or at least a layup you should finish if you're Hildreth.
The freshman, Isaac McNeely, in there. Now Jaden Gardner. And Gardner knocks it down from mid-range. Gardner, a native of Wake Forest, North Carolina, which is not near here. It's near where you live, about 2 hours east. in the Raleigh area. Appleby against Kihei Clark, a matchup to watch.
It's terrific. It's worth the price of admission. I thought another turnover by Wake.
Clark coming off a 20-point game against Virginia Tech. Beekman looking for Caffaro, out of bounds to Virginia.
I thought Kihei Clark went after Sean Padula in their game against Virginia Tech the other night. Took it personally. This is another one of those matchups between Appleby, a guy who's been one of the best players in this league, constantly on the attack, against one of the best defensive guards in the country.
McNeely catch and shoot, rebound Carr. Andrew Carr coming off back-to-back double-doubles.
We've seen a lot of this high pick and roll. It's a steady diet of this, 4 around 1 for Wake.
Carr blocked by Gardner, able to recover. And the one advantage Wake will have today is inside, especially if Virginia continues to play small. They've got Caffaro in there right now, but Wake has some big bodies down low.
And I think that's why Tony Bennett went to Caffaro early. Guy who's only played 9 minutes total in their last 2 games.
Gardner over Carr. Offensive rebound, Beekman, new 20. Clark lines it up, and he cannot connect, and we get a foul down low.
The offensive glass has been an early storyline. Virginia has not shot it well, but they've taken far more shots early in this game than Wake has because of that offensive glass. With this tempo, Anish, there's going to be low possessions. I mean, that's how Virginia plays historically. Low possessions, when you could buy extra ones, foul line, offensive glass, off of turnovers. Those are the cheap stuff in a low possession game.
Clark again, and there's his first field goal. He was 0 for 3. Now 6 points away from passing Corey Alexander on Virginia's all-time points list. Hildreth down low, spin cycle, and able to draw the foul. He's so good as a guard with his physicality in the low post.
And he's gotten so much better. I think the game has slowed down for him. He's a driver, but he can also do that kind of Barkley move like he does there, where he can get his back to the basket, back you down a little bit, and make a shot. He's not been great from the perimeter, only 5 of 18 from 3 in conference play, but he's got a triple-double so far this year. He had 17 and 10 in that win over Clemson the other day. Just a really tough, hard-nosed dude.
Right now, he's playing the best ball of his brief Wake Forest career. Sophomore from England, scoring up more than 9 points per game from last year.
Yeah, it sure is. I thought the experience he and Matthew Marsh got last year, didn't play a ton of minutes, Anish, but it was a traditional progression. Learn as a freshman, get some minutes, make the most of it, and then when you become a sophomore, both those guys have been given their opportunity.
You're talking about player development. What's that? I don't know what that is anymore. I thought you'd just leave and go somewhere else.
There's that 3-game concept we've been talking about. Virginia going much more to that, especially when they go with that smaller lineup. As Caden Shedrick comes in now to replace Caffaro, a lot more movement, a lot more driving opportunities. I thought that the big thing against Virginia Tech for Virginia, they really drove the basketball. I think Tony Bennett leaning in offensively this year, and they have been better certainly over the last few games on that end than they have all season.
That last foul was on Hildreth. Shedrick lost his shoe, so playing with 1 sneaker. Clark, another 3. It's good. He's got 6.
I love how he didn't have a sneaker, and yet they still threw it to him on the block. He said, go get one, big fella.
And he was trying to balance while sliding on his ankle socks, or knee-high socks.
It's 2 threes in this game already for Kihei Clark. Look at him. No shoes, no service, no problem. Yeah, right out to Clark.
Got pretty good traction with the socks there.
Clark had 2 threes in that game the other night. Again, I thought he took the Padula matchup personally. Like he was going to go after him. Kihei Clark didn't have any threes in the 3 games prior. So 4 threes in the last 2 games.
We have seen him evolve as an offensive player in his 5 years. 39% from 3 this year for Clark, a career best. Appleby, that was tipped by Virginia. 12 to shoot. Carr gets rid of it quickly. Williamson now in there for Wake. 5 to shoot. Appleby has to let it go, and that's why he's number 2 in the ACC in scoring.
Especially late in the clock. I mean, you've got it. It's tough because he could go right by you. I mean, he's just an outstanding offensive player with a tremendous amount of freedom from Steve Forbes.
Franklin answers at the other end.
You know, the other thing with Appleby that's so impressive, Anish, is he's really liked by his teammates. I mean, he's averaging over 8 assists a game in conference play, which will make you like a guy. But the way he plays, you got to have teammates who like you, because again, he'll take some shots sometimes with that freedom that make you scratch your head.
Hildreth turbines to the rim. Clark over to Shedrick. Now McNeely, the freshman. Franklin lines it up and smooth. He's playing with so much more confidence this year.
He's playing his best in a Virginia uniform. There's no doubt about that.
Bobby Klintman now looking for help. Appleby hounded by Clark, and he throws it away.
Cam Hildreth, he is a strong driver. He's also a pretty good dancer, evidently. A little Fred Astaire. Virginia uniform over the last 3 weeks, and he knocks the 3 down there, Anish. But I think he's been more of a basketball player of late, not just a shooter. You know, came into Virginia with that reputation out of Indiana. I thought it put a lot of pressure on him last year to make shots. I think his mind is more free. Go back to their Carolina win. He had 9 rebounds in that game, even though he was 0 for 5 from 3. He's just, I think when he starts a game aggressive as a driver like he did against Virginia Tech, I think it's opening more things up for him.
What impressed me, the way he bounced back. He had that game in December against Miami, scoreless, 0 for 7 from the field. In the 7 games since, he's averaging better than 15 points per, shooting 52% from the floor in those games. Last year, you saw extended dry spells that would carry over from game to game. There's Franklin again, and that one rattles in.
And Wake showing a little bit of a defensive change, zone out of the timeout. And a nice job by Franklin filling that corner. And then here, you know, we talked about the matchup on Appleby all day. Now you've got Reese Beekman, a little more length than Kihei Clark.
Monsanto, quick release. And we get a foul on Carr.
It's a nice weapon to have, Anish, in this league, you know, with the really good guard play we have, to be able to have 2 guys in your backcourt like a Kihei and a Reese Beekman.
You can throw the kitchen sink at Appleby, who has a chance to give Wake Forest back-to-back ACC Player of the Years. They had Alondas Williams last year, who came over as a transfer from Oklahoma. Appleby, a Florida transfer. McNeely, the 3. And after a slow start, the shots starting to fall for Virginia. You made the point. They were getting good looks, missing them early. They're now starting to fall in. A 9-0 run for the Hoos. Monday at 7 Eastern on ESPN and the app. Virginia Tech will play host to Duke. The Blue Devils at home, knocking off number 17 Miami earlier today. Then at 9, number 2 Kansas headed to Waco to take on Baylor. You cover the Big 12 as well. That is a highly anticipated game. It's kind of become the marquee game in that league the last few years as Appleby misfires.
Baylor's the hottest team in the Big 12. And if you haven't seen Keontae George, the stud freshman for Baylor, and obviously Grady Dick for Kansas.
There's Franklin again. Oh, he's got it going. 7 straight made field goals for Virginia. Franklin's got 11. Now 3 of 4 from downtown. Monsanto working on Franklin. Williamson No good. Rebound. Who else? Armaan Franklin everywhere. Vanderplas back in there. Big size advantage. And Franklin finishes. And that's another element Vanderplas gives Virginia, the ability to pass as a big.
And that's why he works at that 4 position. He's getting a matchup, and Wake was aggressive. Came with 2 and did not cover down on the backside. Franklin was wide open. And a very nice pass by Vanderplas.
8 straight made field goals for Virginia after getting off to a 2 for 14 start. Monsanto from 18. The rebound, Vanderplas. McNeely's made 15 of his last 26 from deep, and that is Beekman, and Virginia has now hit 7 of 13 from downtown, and it is 17 unanswered for the Cavaliers.
And these are clean looks. I mean, he was allowed to just step into that and fire. Wake, not an overly aggressive defensive team in terms of extending.
And Carr lost it on the way up. He was fouled.
I mean, this has got to be better defended, especially after Virginia's made a few. Appleby is, not only was he late, kind of half closed out.
9 straight shots. They're on a 17-0 run. They've assisted on 10 of their 11 made baskets. The identity of this team, we always think defense, even though sometimes we forgot how efficient they were on offense. But this season, Chris, is Virginia's true identity more of an offensive team?
I think it is. I think their ceiling is they have certainly been more efficient offensively this year than they have defensively. And I don't think Tony Bennett gets enough credit for the offensive coach he is. You know, a lot of movement this year. They've gone more to that 3-game concept. He's found a lineup that works. He's got more shooting on his team. It's a very good passing team. They're one of the best teams in the country in assist rate. You've made the point. They don't turn it over. And so I think he has figured out, you know, it's a very versatile team. They score in a lot of ways. They know where their shots are coming from, but they can hit you in a lot of different areas.
And even early in this game, when they started 2 out of 14, a lot of those were good looks. Virginia still hasn't turned the ball over. Appleby meets Clark. Now Franklin. Clark thought about it. Shot clock down to 4. Franklin. Shot clock at 2. And Franklin can't get that one to go. It's knocked out of bounds. Last touch, Virginia.
And then you add to their offense the ability to offensive rebound, which they have done early in this game. There, Vanderplas almost comes up with another one.
Reese Beekman is on the bench. He picked up his 2nd foul. So Clark guarding Appleby. Hildreth has been successful working inside a few times today. Carr, shot clock down to 5. The double doesn't come, and he misses falling away, and the rebound is pulled down by the freshman Ryan Dunn. 6'8", wiry, 3 blocks in back-to-back games. A chance to be a real good one for Tony Bennett. Vanderplas posting up the smaller Appleby and able to draw the foul. Virginia, again, seeing the mismatch and exploiting it.
And they've had that a few times. You know, Wake getting caught in some switches. They've had Vanderplas on Appleby a couple times and have not gone to him. There, just a nice job positioning. Good toss over the top to get the foul.
4th team foul against Wake. Franklin with 15 to lead all scores. He's got as many as the Deeks.
That's what he's doing differently. That drive right there. And again, I think the offense facilitates that. There's more room for those types of drives.
Appleby forced it.
You got to be careful of your Wake. A 16-point deficit against Virginia is not the same as if you're playing somebody else.
Well, and Wake has not proven they can stop Virginia yet.
You could have set that to Mozart, the ball movement, and it's Franklin in the corner.
18 points for Franklin. He has outscored the Demon Deacons with 5.5 to play in the first half. Hildreth over Franklin. And the drought continues for Wake Forest. It has been a minute since their last field goal. Virginia on a 22-1 run over the last 6 minutes. Franklin from deep, short. And we'll get a foul down low. If it's on Vanderplas, that's his second, and it is.
It's an easy game when you share the basketball. I mean, look at that one-handed pass out of the post and around the horn, and there's Armaan Franklin, and those are the possessions. I mean, Franklin's had a good first half, but those are the possessions that Virginia is starting to have where you don't really know who scores, you just know Virginia scored. What a textbook possession that was.
And again, it's been the quality of shots.
Sure has. And then conversely, Wake has not gotten good looks.
Yeah, we're making a lot about this Virginia offense. Let's not forget they can still play a little defense.
Well, they haven't lost that completely. Hildreth backing down Dunn. And able to draw the foul.
You know, it's a Wake team, too, Anish, that has been really reliant on making threes. I mean, they're making over 9 threes a game. They're shooting almost 40% from three in conference play.
Kihei Clark just picked up his second foul, so foul trouble now something to watch. Clark has 2, Beekman has 2, and Vanderplas has 2. Sunday on ABC, it's an ACC women's basketball matinee. Diamond Johnson leading number 20 NC State against Haley Van Lith, and Louisville coverage comes your way at 1 Eastern. Wake Forest has gone almost 7 minutes since its last field goal. Virginia's made 11 of its last 13 from the field. Cavaliers 8 of 16 from deep. Clark, the savvy vet, in there with the 2 fouls, finds Gardner, and the rebound to Monsanto. Monsanto contested, able to knock it down, and that ends the field goal drought, but it's those kind of shots for Wake. They're not really getting into their offense.
Well, and he could shoot right over Kihei Clark, who was on him, and Clark with the 2 fouls. You don't want to necessarily push up, but that's what Monsanto wants. He wants 3.
McNeely answers.
Man. They are smoking hot, and it's a multitude of guys. I mean, that's where the versatility and the number of guys making shots for Virginia can be overwhelming.
McNeely now 16 of his last 27 from 3.
Monsanto at the other end.
He's a real microwave. You've got to do your work early with him. You have to play him before he catches the basketball.
McNeely. Offensive rebound, Franklin. Clark. Back to Franklin, who's been hot. And a rebound by Monsanto. Monsanto thought about it. Tried to draw the foul. It was tipped. It'll stay with Wake Forest. Armaan Franklin got a piece. Monsanto giving the Deacs a bit of a spark, but the deficit's still 14.
Statement games can make or break championship resumes.
This is not a final exam. This is a midterm.
It's a top 10 showdown and a clash of old school blue bloods. Experience the SEC Big 12 Challenge doubleheader Saturday on ESPN.
Schroff, Chris Spatola with you at the Joel. Look at the assist number, 12-2 for Virginia.
Who's after a slow start, they made just 2 of their first 14. Since then, almost flawless basketball.
Yeah, I think the big difference, Virginia's offense is working for them in the half court, whereas for Wake, it's been a lot of isolation, a lot of guys having to do their own thing. I think if you're Steve Forbes, though, and maybe their defensive energy, Wake's defensive energy is down because they're not making shots on one end, but it starts with their defense. They have not been able to provide any resistance to this Virginia offense.
Now, Virginia's got 37. They're on pace for 80. And under Tony Bennett, when Virginia scores 80, they're 46-1. Monsanto has been the offense for Wake. He's got 11. That's his first 2-point field goal. The lob and the finish, Jaden Gardner. And again, too easy for Virginia.
A set play out of the timeout, well executed. Gardner got a screen from McNeely, a back screen, wide open.
Monsanto, and that is his 4th 3, and right now he is single-handedly keeping Wake Forest in this game. Seventh game this season with 4 threes for Monsanto. He's got 3 games with 6. Beekman back in there with the 2 fouls. Shot clock at 7. Franklin over Carr, air ball. There is a window right now for Wake going into halftime.
Yeah, a little bit of momentum here. It's a good point. You'd love this to be shrunk to single digits. And Appleby really has been a non-factor in this first half.
Monsanto camping out in the corner. He wants it. He's got it. Had to give it up. Shot clock into single digits. Hildreth posting up McNeely. Gardner coming over to help. Hildreth, the spin move inside, and able to draw the foul.
That's that Barkley back down that he loves. He's got a gritty, grindy game to him. And when he gets you in here, especially a matchup like McNeely on him, Virginia tried to bring the double with Gardner over the top. And a nice spin to the baseline there by Cam Hildreth. You know, he's from Worthing, England. Do you know that the actress who plays Brienne of Tarth, I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones guy.
Gwendolyn Christie.
She's from Worthing, England.
How about that? Am I a Game of Thrones fan? I'm a Game of Thrones nerd.
Clearly, you have that actress.
You're speaking my language now.
Right off the tongue,
Oh,
man.
yeah. I did not know that. So, Cam Hildreth and Brienne of Tarth.
Kinfolk.
Wake within single digits. Virginia's largest lead was 19. Gardner looking for help. Franklin, baseline. And a putback there. That is Francisco Caffaro. Last year he was Caffaro. This year he says, call me by my real name, Caffaro.
And what a pass from Armaan Franklin.
Appleby driving on Beekman, who's got the 2 fouls. And the putback, Matthew Marsh, that's what he does.
Sure is. He was on the spot, and thankfully he was, because that was really well defended on Appleby by Beekman.
Virginia holding for one final shot. And Marsh commits the foul.
It's a good foul. They're not at the limit. Make Virginia reset here.
only the 5th team foul, so Wake has one more to give. Franklin will inbound. Fabian Williamson checks in for Wake Forest. And now Tony Bennett calls a timeout. 5.4 seconds to go. Franklin has been Virginia's top scorer. He's the game's top scorer. 18 points, 4 threes in the first half. And what's been impressive, Virginia, 41 points, 9 threes, 0 turnovers.
And the balance has been outstanding. That's kind of what's defined this offense over the last handful of games here. Number of shot makers. The movement is really tough to guard. We talked about how good a passing team this Virginia group is. And really, Wake gets back into this game because of the three-point shooting for Monsanto. The question for Wake at halftime is, where are we going to generate offense?
Appleby, who came in averaging 18 a game, number 2 in the ACC, only 5 points on 2 of 6. Hildreth only 1 field goal. He's done most of his work from the free throw line. 5 seconds to go. Beekman to Gardner. Nearly stolen away. Gardner's got to put it up, and he is fouled on the shot. So 2 shots coming. It is on Monsanto, his first.
That's a bad foul by a redshirt junior. He should know better. You got to make Gardner make this shot. I mean, this is going to be a tough shot. Carr is there. You've got some length. He should be up closer, but for Monsanto to even be involved in that is unacceptable.
Gardner comes up short. His numbers down this season. His minutes are down. And part of that is the emergence of some of these other pieces for Virginia. Isaac McNeely, Ryan Dunn. One out of 2. Williamson from half court. We had a little bit of a duel in that first half. Damari Monsanto hit 4 threes. Armani Franklin had 4 threes. Virginia on the road, up 10 at the break. Virginia matches its highest scoring first half of the season. 42 points for the Cavaliers. Wake trailed by as many as 19. They have cut that deficit to 10 at halftime, but Chris Patola, Virginia in that first half, 14 assists, 0 turnovers. A bit of a cold start in the first 4 minutes, then they caught fire.
It's about as efficient as you can be in the back half of that half. This is an offensive Virginia team. We made that point early in this game. 7 different guys scored in that half for Virginia. They made 9 threes, but it was the sharing of the basketball, the ball movement. You didn't really know who was scoring. You just knew Virginia was. 14 assists, no turnovers, 9 threes. If you're Wake Forest, you've got to have much more pressure. There's got to be much more of a feel defensively.
A lot of good looks and symphony-type ball movement for Virginia in the opening half. Wake, its largest second-half comeback this season. They trailed by 6 against App State, won that game on the Andrew Carr game winner, down 10 against the number 10 team in the country. But Wake on this court, you expect a run. They're 10-0 at home, 28-2 at the Joel since the beginning of last season. And they've beaten 2 ranked teams here, knocking off Duke and Clemson on Tuesday. Virginia riding into this game on a 4-game win streak. Vanderplas puts it on the floor against Carr. Appleby came over to help. Vanderplas off the feed from Clark. And another 3. That is 10 now for the game for Virginia.
That's the versatility. They started Vanderplas on the block. It was a broken play. He floats out to that 3-point line. Such a tough matchup.
How does Wake get Tyree Appleby going.
Well, Virginia, credit them. We've talked about their offense. They did a nice job against Appleby. Put multiple guys on him. Were very aggressive in ball screens. He just didn't have a lot of movement, Anish.
Hildreth down low and called for a travel. He's been working the low post, and Franklin did his best not to cede any ground, and that time Hildreth got caught.
You know, clearly Virginia came into this, as you would expect. Tyree Appleby is not going to beat us, and then we're going to play those other guys off of him.
And Tony Bennett told us before the game, we view it as us versus Appleby. Appleby has not scored since the 12-minute mark of the first half. He came into this game second in the ACC in scoring, and that was just a I'm going to get mine drive right against Kihei Clark.
Well, he's not averaging 18 in this league for no reason. And that's where he's got to start. You'd love to see him like that, Anish, drive the basketball.
Gardner, no good. Monsanto, he led Wake with 14 in the first half, 4 threes. Appleby driving on Clark, and that's going to be 3 on Kihei Clark.
And that's the other reason why driving it's good, especially in that matchup. You know, if you're Virginia or any team against Appleby, you can't get caught watching him dribble, especially in isolation, because he's a very willing passer to those other guys. One of the reasons he's averaging 8 assists a game in conference play.
It does not get easier for Appleby. Monsanto's 3 not there. Clark exits, and now you're going to have to deal with Reese Beekman.
There's that
Vander
mismatch.
Plas has the mismatch against Appleby. They couldn't get it to him. Now they do. Shot clock at 6, and Vander Plas stepped out of bounds.
You know, it was interesting talking to Steve Forbes about Virginia. He mentioned Ben Vander Plas about 4 different times in the conversation. He's been the real difference maker for Virginia over the last 3 games.
He just committed Virginia's first turnover. And Vander Plas inserted into the starting lineup 2 games ago, making his 3rd straight start. It's the small lineup that's worked well. Monsanto beats the shot clock, his 5th 3, and Wake Forest with an 8.
You got to keep riding that wave because that's a tough shot, but it's what carried them in the first half.
He's got 16 to lead the Deacs. Armand Franklin leads all scorers with 18. Beekman hesitates. Now Gardner, baseline, short. A chance to make it a 2-possession game. Appleby kicks to Hildreth. And the 3!
As Shooter in Hoosier said, you can't get caught watching the paint dry. You can't get caught watching Tyree Appleby operate because he's a very willing passer. Cam Hildreth, he's wet.
Wake Forest trailed by as many as 19. They have closed to 6. And since Kihei Clark left the game with his 3rd foul, Wake goes on a 7-0 run.
If you're an opposing team, you feel much better playing Virginia when Clark is not in the game. And as an individual, if you're Tyree Appleby, as good a defender as Reese Beekman is, he's not Kihei Clark. Kihei Clark is a dog. He's a foxhole guy. He's going to get into you. There's no back down. And I think Appleby senses that and senses how needed he is in this game.
So you'd rather be okay with going up against the length of Beekman?
To be clear, I don't want to play either of them. But I feel much better when Clark is out of the game.
McNeely in there for Virginia. Driving on Hildreth, lost it. And the crowd does not like the foul call.
It's not really what McNeely does. It's, you know, if you're Steve Forbes, you're like, man, he puts it on the floor and we foul him. You send him to the foul line for 2 cheap free throws, a guy who is all threes.
77% of his shots from 3. I like his nickname. They call him iMac.
Well, you're an Apple guy.
In the NIL world now, that means something.
Sure does.
The former Mr. Basketball in West Virginia hits the free throw. Beekman picks up Appleby right on the logo. Appleby looking to shake Beekman. Good pass, Carr down low. And it rattles home for the Delaware transfer, Andrew Carr.
He's been quiet, but he has been so good of late. Guy who was recruited to play behind Jake LaRavia sped up his process when LaRavia left.
Hildreth the steal. Monsanto was calling for it. Hildreth didn't see him and able to draw the foul. And momentum right now has shifted. The pendulum has swung to Wake with 15:43 to go in the half.
Big 12 challenge. Oh my goodness!
Back and forth we go.
Boy, that is just perfect.
There's no question. We got some ballers here.
This is one of those chances to make a statement. It is not for the faint of heart.
Got it! We got a ball game.
Anish Shroff, Chris Spatola with you at the Joel. We got a ball game here. And foul trouble becoming an issue now for Virginia. Reese Beekman just picked up his third. Kihei Clark picked up his third earlier in this half.
But he's got Clark back on the floor, so he's willing to play one of those guys with that foul trouble. Anish, as you said, you'd love to see Appleby remain aggressive, particularly off the dribble.
Appleby, baseline. Dunn corrals the carom.
They love that out-of-bounds play. They run that 3-4 times a game.
Armand Franklin has not had many touches in the second half. Clark on the drive. Hildreth got a piece of the ball. Clark recovers. Shot clock did not reset. And Dunn with the 3, just his 4th of the season.
His minutes are way up. He's played 40 minutes combined in their last 2 games coming in. I think Tony Bennett has found something with Ryan Dunn.
Yeah, he's now in the circle of trust. ACC high 25 minutes against Virginia Tech the other day. Carr drives and able to draw the foul. And Dunn still down underneath the Virginia basket.
That's the versatility of Andrew Carr. He can play inside, he could play facing up. And I said a moment ago, he was recruited to play, Steve Forbes recruited him out of Delaware to play behind Jake LaRavia. And he was actually their best player over the summer. And Steve Forbes saying he leveled out a little bit in the fall, but with no LaRavia here, it kind of sped up his progression. And he's really coming on. He's got double-doubles in their last 2 games. I think it was that Rutgers game, Anish, where even in that physical game, a game they lost, you could start to see Andrew Carr start to figure it out.
He was a big player here Tuesday night, 18 and 11 in the win against Clemson. Tigers came into the game 7-0 in the ACC. That was their first loss in conference. Both of these teams 6-2 in league play, tied for second. Vanderplas backing down Carr. Carr got a piece of it. Hildreth, strong drive, left hand.
Shot clock down to 9. McNeely launches in and out, and Wake can make it a one-possession game. Appleby to the 10, and called for steps. That's the right call.
Yeah, I mean, clearly a travel. It's about an 8-stepper. What was he grabbing, his wrist?
Grabbing his wrist. Yeah, holding that left wrist. Not a Euro step, it's a Eurasian step, 2 continents. Clark playing with the 3 fouls. Franklin with 18, none in the second half. Puts it on the floor, and he'll get 2 free throws. That's what he's been doing this season. Taking the ball to the basket more. When the 3-point shot at times hasn't been there, he'll drive the ball, and he's become a more consistent player.
And I think that's where the half-court offense they are running, Anish, that 3-game concept versus the mover blocker has opened up more of those drives. You know, they get the movement, they get the screening, and then Clark, Beekman, Franklin can break that off and get into that drive to the basket.
Virginia Notre Dame women's basketball tomorrow 2 p.m. over on the ACC network. A chance to watch a little more hoops before getting your Sunday football fix. This is a pretty nice appetizer before some playoff football.
It's as good a crowd I've seen at Wake Forest in a long time.
Yeah, Steve Forbes has re-energized this fan base, re-energized the Joel. McNeely, the block on Hildreth. You think about where this program had been for a decade plus, you know, in purgatory or worse in the ACC. Steve Forbes takes over a couple of years ago. They show some progress last year, 13-5 in league play, and you know, if not for maybe a better non-conference schedule or a few more non-conference wins, they would have been right there in the NCAA tournament. It's not often teams go 13-5 in the ACC and miss out on the dance.
Yeah. Well, and for Steve Forbes, if you're trying to beef up your non-conference schedule, you're also doing it under you don't know who your roster's going to be. So I think, you know, he goes out, he schedules Rutgers. They got a really nice win at Wisconsin. You know, that 2-point loss to LSU, you wonder if that comes back to haunt them a little bit. But you're assuming, if you're Forbes, that Jake LaRavia is coming back. And then LaRavia was too good. He ends up being a first-round pick. But it's becoming harder and harder to schedule, not only with transfers and whatnot and the movement, but also who's going to be good? How do we determine who's going to help our analytics?
His background as a junior college coach, where you're piecing together a roster year in, year out, season by season, it's helped him. And you've seen what he's done with an Appleby, with an Alondis Williams, a LaRavia. McNeely knocks down the 3. He's becoming a dead-eye shooter, now 3 of 5 from downtown. Better than 50% over his last 6+ games. Appleby whistled for the offensive foul.
You cannot, on that shot before by McNeely, you have got to know personnel. You cannot help if you're Damian Williamson. That one step he takes towards the basketball allows a 3-point shooter, a guy who only shoots threes and who has been on a heater over the last handful of games. That is overhelp, and it's a bad defensive play.
Clark, and that is sent back by Matthew Marsh. Surprisingly, only his 3rd block of the season.
That is surprising. You know, a guy who only played 79 minutes all season last year. Another one of those sophomores who has stepped into a lot more minutes. He's done a nice job this year.
He's worked a lot with the strength and conditioning coach. Gotten stronger, gotten bigger, gotten faster. Imagine the pickup games with he and his brothers. They're all about the same height.
pickup games. It's about fighting, wrestling.
Turns into a rugby match. Reese Beekman picks up the foul, and that is 4 now on one of the premier perimeter defenders in the country. So Beekman's got 4. Kihei Clark has 3. And now it'll be Clark on Appleby. 7-point lead for Virginia. They've led by as many as 19. Appleby looking to shake Clark, driving against Dunn, and a foul on the floor before the shot. It's on Dunn, his second.
And Steve Forbes thought it should have been a shooting foul.
That's already 16 fouls now for Virginia, so Wake in the bonus from here on out. .12:06 to go, second half. Virginia's halftime lead was 10. Appleby over Clark. And it's Kihei pushing for Virginia. A fifth-year senior. And a turnover for Virginia. Just their third of the game. Different vibe inside the Joel here in the second half. The round of 16 in Melbourne underway. Australian Open coverage begins tonight at 7 Eastern on ESPN+. Coverage begins on ESPN2 at 8 o'clock. And you can watch Coco at 9 p.m. tonight. Wake's guards this afternoon, Appleby and Hildreth, have drawn 10 fouls combined, and you start to say, what's changed this game? Well, it started with foul trouble for Beekman and Kihei Clark.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, go back to that Clemson game. Appleby drew 9 fouls in that game, took 14 free throws.
Beekman on the bench with 4 fouls. Clark has 3. Appleby goes right at him, flips it, reverses it, but didn't get rim.
I mean, that's a perfect setup out of the timeout. You're isolated on that right wing to try and get a foul on Clark. You got to have a stronger finish look there if you're Appleby.
Appleby 3 out of 10. Franklin for 3. Rebound Carr. Monsanto straight away. In and out. This place would have erupted if that would have gone in. Monsanto 4 threes tonight. Gardner down low. Franklin got his man in the air and then missed the bunny.
Missed layups.
Appleby going to work on Clark. Spin cycle inside.
Got him.
And draws the foul.
It's going to be tough for Kihei Clark because they're just going isolation now, and he's got a ton of space and the freedom to go and the freedom to go to work. And it's just tough. He's too shifty. He reminds me, and I mean this as a very poor man's form, he reminds me a lot of Allen Iverson. He's got that slight body frame. He throws his body around. Incredible freedom, very shifty, can make tough shots. I mean, he's got Iverson vibes. It's going to be hard for Kihei Clark, particularly in foul trouble, Anish, to stay in front of that.
Yeah, 4 on Clark, 4 on Beekman. Appleby, the 24-year-old Florida transfer. He began his career at Cleveland State. Named a few days ago to the midseason Oscar Robertson Award watch list. And he can score. He has been a double-figure scorer in all 5 of his collegiate seasons that he's played in. Virginia's lead down to 5. Franklin in the low post. Gardner with 8 to shoot. And a kick ball. Andrew Carr.
And that resets the shot clock to 20.
Again, trying to run Appleby down to the block. Appleby switched on to Vanderplas, just can't make a post pass.
And a foul before the inbounds. It's on Hildreth, his second. McNeely a three. Short. Appleby driving on McNeely. Kicks to Monsanto. The quick release. Not there. Franklin the rebound.
That's the ball watching I'm talking about. You got to stay home on Monsanto. You can't watch Appleby drive and dribble.
McNeely open. Drives. Floater. Too strong. Here comes Monsanto. Hildreth. Kicks it back to Trailer Clintman. Vanderplas, the three, quiets the crowd.
It's a big shot from a guy who has hit some big shots in their last few games. What a weapon Vanderplas has become.
Appleby. Monsanto at the other end. Yes.
Tyree Appleby occupies attention to the defense on the opposite side. Bobby Clipman runs the floor. And a little Flushkis. Flushkis potatoes. Wet from Monsanto. We got a three-point game, Anish.
Virginia led by 19 with 5:42 to go in the first half. Wake Forest has cut the lead all the way down to 3. And we made this point earlier, Chris. Being down 19 against Virginia feels different because they can suffocate you by grinding the clock, playing slow. That's almost a 30-point deficit or a 25-point deficit against anybody else. The fact that Wake is close to within 3 tells you how good this team is on this floor. Vanderplas inside against Hildreth. And Wake can tie with a 3. Appleby, and that is a block on McNeely. His second foul. Wake in the bonus, so a 1-and-1 for Tyree Appleby, an 82% free throw shooter.
It's hard to quantify what Virginia has lost with Clark and Beekman in foul trouble. Defensively, it starts there, but secondarily, offensively, those two guys calm this team down. Certainly Kihei Clark. I mean, he drives this engine. To not have those two guys is a massive deal here for Virginia. Be interesting to see, Anish, how long Tony Bennett waits.
I was going to ask you at some point, do you put one of the two in just to neutralize Appleby?
I think the closer you get to that 4-minute TV timeout, I think you'll start to see. I think you'll sprinkle those guys back in and then trust that they won't foul.
A 1-point game. The closest it's been since 15-14. Turnover. Appleby the other way for 3 for the lead. And going the other way, it's a foul against Wake Forest and Marsh.
I don't mind the shot from Appleby. It's shots he's taken all year, and as I like to say, if you're okay with a guy taking a shot and making it, you have to be okay with Tyree Appleby taking that shot and missing it. So momentum shot, those are those Iverson vibes I'm talking about. You're going to have to live with some tough ones.
Wake has beaten 2 ranked teams at home. 10-0 at the Joel. Franklin, open 3.
He's been quiet in this second half.
Only 1 point. He had 18 in the first 20 minutes. Appleby driving on Dunn. Blocked by Dunn. Dunn's had 3 blocks in back-to-back games. And then they get Bobby Klintman, the freshman from Sweden, with the reach-in.
You know, when you're a big guy, you can meet somebody at the rim. You might get beat. Meet him at the rim. Is on Tyree Appleby. What that means is you might get beat, but if you stay with the play, you can meet him at the backboard. That's a big-time block on an outstanding offensive player by the freshman Ryan Dunn.
Yeah, he is going to be a good one for Virginia. Older brother Justin played baseball in the ACC. First-round pick as a pitcher out of Boston College. Now with the Cincinnati Reds. Virginia with the lead. And Beekman and Clark back in the game with 7.5 to go, both playing with 4 fouls. Beekman, baseline drive, bumped, no foul, off of Monsanto, 9 to shoot. What do you tell a player when they come in with 4 fouls with this much time left?
Well, hopefully you don't have to tell these veterans too much, Anish. Just got to stay in a stance, try to stay in front, and in a pinch, don't commit the foul. And if you're Wake, you are going right after.
Appleby wanted to, picked up his dribble. Franklin picks up Hildreth. 15 for Hildreth. Appleby with 11. Goes right to work on Clark.
Good help.
Shot clock down to 8. Hildreth posting up Franklin. Feed to the corner. Carr, the 3. That would have been for the lead. And it's snatched by Dunn.
And you made this point earlier, Tony Bennett telling us it's us against Tyree Appleby. All those other guys have to be aware of the foul trouble Clark and Beekman are in.
Beekman. And we'll get Carr with a foul. So Virginia to the line, a 1-and-1. Who's now in the bonus?
And that's the matchup. You know, that's 2 drives that Beekman takes on Carr. I actually thought he got fouled on the baseline on the last possession, but they pick it up there. You know, that's the game of matchups we knew coming in Anish. Wake Forest much bigger up front when Virginia has this lineup in.
Best crowd of the season at home for Wake Forest. They woke up from their slumber really late in that first half when Wake went on a bit of a run. Appleby in the paint, teardrop, not there. That's a gimme.
You're getting what you want. I mean, that is on the doorstep.
And they fell asleep defensively. Franklin, the easy flush. And a timeout by Steve Forbes. You had a chance at one end and then a breakdown at the other if you're Steve Forbes.
Well, there's nothing you can do if you're Steve Forbes. You drew up the play you wanted. I mean, you got right on the doorstep. And then here, just a breakdown in your transition defense. And a nice job by Franklin. You've seen a couple of those types of cuts from the weak side. It's good to get a dunk, see if that maybe gets him going. He was so good in that first half, particularly from 3.
In the second half, Virginia shooting just 25%. They didn't turn it over in the first 20 minutes. They've had 4 here. Franklin, with that dunk, has 21, his 5th 20-point game this season, 8th as a Cavalier. .601 to go. What does this game come down to?
comes down to who's able to execute in the half court, Anish. I mean, it's, again, it's Tyree Appleby, the damage he's able to cause, and it's not necessarily his bucket, but what he's creating for others.
Appleby just 1 for his last 9 from the field, but he does have 5 assists. He leads the ACC in that category. Carr backing down the freshman Dunn, swoops in, batted up, and the long arms, the great wingspan of Ryan Dunn coming away with the ball.
You can see why Tony Bennett likes him in there. He's long, plays with a really good motor, good athlete.
Beekman driving on Carr, kicks to the corner, Dunn for 3, line drive, comes right back to him. And he's called for the offensive foul. That's 3 on Dunn.
Yeah, it's a good call. You're just trying to do too much. Nice job following up his shot. And then a good heads-up defensive play by Andrew Carr.
Wake and Virginia entered the day tied for 2nd in the ACC, along with Miami and Pittsburgh. Miami lost to Duke earlier today. Clemson at 7-1, leading the conference. Carr against Dunn, and he traveled.
And that's done. I mean, he is just Andrew Carr all sped up and collapsing folding chair there.
Clark from the corner, puts it on the floor, drops it off, Franklin through traffic, and Dunn the emphatic putback. Wake closed to within 1, a 6-0 Virginia run. Appleby against Clark, and not much Kihei could do with the 4 fouls.
Well, you got to make a decision if you're Tony Bennett, because that was well defended by a guy with 4 fouls. Are you going to bring help? Are you going to have guys come over to help on that drive?
13 now for Tyree Appleby. Beekman works the baseline. Almost a 3-second shot clock at 2. Clark lets it fly and fouled on the 3-point shot by Appleby.
We'll have to see this one. Yeah, that's a foul. This is a massive play in a 5-point game under 4 minutes. There's no question that's a foul. He hits him on the elbow, and if you're an official standing right there, which is where the official was, he's going to call that. It's not a smart play by Tyree Appleby. That is not a shot that Kihei Clark is hitting at a high percentage, and this game has a chance to go to 8 points if he bangs down all 3 of these free throws. That is a massive foul in this game.
Kihei Clark, a 74% free throw shooter. Winningest player in school history. Making his 126th career start today, and he misses the first. 7 starts away from tying London Parentes' school record. Chasing down John Crotty on the all-time assists list as well. And with that free throw, he's got 8 points in the game and is now tied with Corey Alexander, our colleague, on Virginia's all-time scoring list. 7-point lead for the Cavaliers. Beekman marking Monsanto. Skip pass. Appleby brings it down. Shoots over Clark. Marsh had the rebound and lost it. And a foul is called down low.
There was a good defensive possession by Virginia. First of all, you made Wake take some time, and they have done an exceptional job with that high ball screen today, Anish, where, you know, Appleby in that middle third of the floor, you get that rim run all the time by Matthew Marsh or Andrew Carr, and it usually results in a dunk. Virginia's done a nice job with that today.
4 fouls now on Dunn. Marsh, a 41% free throw shooter, just 13 of 32 prior to that. And he gets them both. So Dunn, Kihei Clark, and Beekman all with 4 fouls and all on the floor. Beekman inside to Vanderplas, and it's an offensive foul. Appleby sold it. Vanderplas picks up his third.
They've had that a lot today, that mismatch. Vanderplas at 235 pounds. Jeez, just discards the 175-pound Tyree Appleby.
Virginia with 1 timeout. Wake has 2. 3 minutes to go. At one point, it looked like a Virginia runaway, and now an offensive foul on Marsh. Now the officials have taken control of this game, whether you like it or not.
I was not a fan of this call, at least live. I mean, he's just trying to me, that's not a moving block. He's actually trying to get out of the way of Kihei Clark, but I guess the officials saw him as trying to set a screen while moving.
Appleby shading Clark. Beekman from deep.
Wow.
The 3 is there.
Big shot. And a shot it did seem like he wanted to take, but he's actually shooting a very high percentage from 3 this year.
48%. Monsanto forced it.
And that's not a good shot. And that's a Damari Monsanto kind of shot. He'll shoot you into a game, but he could take some bad ones in some big spots.
Wake has missed 7 of its last 8. Beekman putting it on the floor. Could not maneuver around Carr. We come up on 2 minutes to play. Beekman step back, long 2, air ball. Hildreth working on Franklin, and they get Franklin with the foul. 2 shots now for Cam Hildreth, who is 8 for 8 at the free throw line, and the stripe has been a big advantage today for Wake.
It has. It's really been a massive part of their offense. You know, it was Monsanto in the first half, and then really just driving it and getting to the foul line in this second half for Wake.
Big Monday, Duke and Virginia Tech. Blue Devils coming off a win today against Miami at Cameron Indoor. Virginia Tech 1-6 in league play, but much better than their record indicates. And they've got Hunter Couture back. Kansas Baylor, the nightcap at 9. 1 out of 2 for Hildreth. And now here's where Virginia's dangerous. They practice their offense with the shot clock winding down, so this is nothing new.
And you've got to get a stop here because you can't play these out much longer.
With 3 to shoot, Franklin gets the roll.
It's a killer. You know, you didn't have to foul there yet, but you had to get a stop.
And the lead now back to 10. That's what the margin was at halftime. Monsanto from the corner, his 6th 3 of the game. fourth game with 6 or more threes. Hildreth the steal. Wake still alive. Monsanto again. Hits! A career-high 25 for Damari Monsanto. 7 threes, and Wake pulls to within 4.
It's the many moods of Damari Monsanto. He is a wild card, emphasis on wild. He takes some shots that if you're Steve Forbes, you have to live with because he can do this. That's a big-time shot. He's got tremendous positional size, about 6'6", and he has started to hit that shot off the bounce. And how about a turnover niche? A team that rarely does that, especially that guy, Kihei Clark, a big turnover at center court, leading to another transition 3.
Virginia led by as many as 19, looking to hold on. This would be a big road win for the Hoos, who are trying to make it 5 in a row. Wake has not lost on its home floor this season. The Demon Deacons have beaten 2 ranked teams. And if they come back and somehow win this game after being down 19 to Virginia, that says a lot about where this team is headed.
When they were just down 10 with about 1:20 to Virginia. And still 2 threes, obviously 6 points, put you right back in this game to the extent that you don't have to foul here. Like, play this out, trust your defense. I think you could afford to be aggressive. But again, you've got to get a stop and a defensive rebound.
Virginia will inbound. They can run the baseline. Vanderplas to inbound. Dunn, Franklin, Clark, and Beekman on the floor for the Cavaliers. Appleby, Hildreth, Carr, Monsanto, and Klintman for Wake. It'll stay with Virginia, knocked out by Wake. Beekman, Dunn, and Clark all have 4 fouls. Clark clears to Beekman. And now we get a foul. It's Hildreth. Two shots.
You know, clearly, obviously, Steve Forbes wanted them fouling there. You know, they had taken, by the time Virginia got it over, it was about 20 seconds on the shot clock. I'm in favor of playing that thing out. Trust your defense, get your stop. Again, he makes both of these, and now you're at a differential with 41 left here.
Virginia has hit the 70-point threshold. 9-0 this season when scoring at least 70. Clark with that last free throw, just past Corey on the all-time scoring list.
You've really hit that home today.
We're gonna get that in. I'll hear it from him when I see him. Both free throws good, 73-67. Still a 2-possession game. Monsanto trailing the play. Appleby down the lane against Franklin, missing the layup. And now you got a foul, and they finally do. So Kihei Clark to go to the line with a chance to ice this game.
Yeah, I think if you're Tyree Appleby after this game, there's been a few of those bunnies around the rim, Anish.
Too many today.
Too many. In a game like this against a team like Virginia, where your margin for error is very thin, you have got to make those layups around the rim.
Appleby just 4 out of 16. He came into the game as the ACC's #2 scorer. And, you know, you can't say enough about what the experience has meant for Virginia. Yes, you've got young guys like McNeely and Dunn making big plays, but Clark and Beekman, the ability to come back with 4 fouls, to stay on the floor, that's been the difference.
And how about the head coach trusting those guys? I mean, he put them in. I thought it was going to be closer to that 4-minute timeout. He put him back in right under 8 minutes. And that's a head coach who's been in a lot of wars, certainly with Kihei Clark and Reese Beekman. He trusts those guys. And to do that, particularly with Clark on Tyree Appleby, that was a heck of a job here by Kihei Clark.
Virginia returns to action next Saturday. Boston College comes to JPJ, that game on the ACC network. Wake goes to Pittsburgh on Wednesday, a Pitt team that is far more dangerous than anybody thought going into the season. Monsanto tries another three. It's not there, batted out to Hildreth. Monsanto again. And Franklin pulls it down, that's all she wrote. Virginia hands Wake its first home loss of the season. The Cavaliers make it 5 in a row. We talked a lot about Virginia's offense and the identity of this team taking shape. We saw that again. They went to the smaller lineup, even with foul trouble to their guards. This offense gave this Virginia team a cushion in the first half.
This is an offensive team this year. Get used to it, folks. They're fun to watch on that end. They had 42 points in the first half, 76 in this game. That's the story.
And Tony Bennett picks up his 400th career win. For Chris Spatola and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Anish Shroff. Final score from Winston-Salem, Virginia 76, Wake Forest 67.
Who's being put on headset?